Well, hello everyone. We just finished our first week of online learning. Demetra is not going to school anymore like the rest of the kids in her class in the county and all over the country doing learning online now. And the teacher has done a great job with Google Classrooms, getting the lessons all set up. She's been reading and writing and doing her math homework, and all that's been great. But the science, I think there's something missing from the science curriculum, because science really can't just be read in a book, and you can't just watch a documentary about the mating habits of rockhopper penguins on Discovery Channel. You have to actually get into a laboratory and do some experiments. So we're going to do a little experiment today. Demetra, are you ready? Okay. Because this is where learning happens, when you do the practical stuff. And, I went online and I tried to find a few of these different experiments. And, you find the volcano that explodes with the baking soda and vinegar and all that, and that's fun. But I thought we could try to incorporate learning with some real life skills, some things that you can use later on in life. So not just science for science sake, but also has some purpose behind it. So we don't have a chemistry lab, but...
We do not.
We do not, but we have things around the house we can use instead. So in chemistry, there's a thing called the pipette. And the pipette is how you take small amounts of liquid and you move them from one container to another. Have you ever done that in your drink before? Like in your lemonade, you put your finger on there and you take it and you can do that or something?
I know. I used to like doing that. I just stuck it in the lemonade, put my thumb on top.
That's right. Well, that's exactly what you use a pipette for in chemistry lab. Then there's something called a graduated cylinder, which we don't have that either, but we have this. So it tells you the different measurements, how much of everything you're putting in. Thank you, what a good assistant you are. And you can measure out the amounts. So we have our pipette and our graduated cylinder. And there's something called a vortex machine.
Vortex machine?
It helps mix the liquids together much more efficiently than just stirring it with a straw. It uses high-speed vortex to mix the ingredients together. We don't have that, but we do have this. So we can use this to mix things together. All right?
Okay.
I think you see where I'm going with this. All right. Oh, that's all right. And we don't have a Bunsen burner. I do have some matches. We're not going to be needing those. Oh, I forgot my Erlenmeyer flask. Let me get that.
He will be right back.
We don't have an Erlenmeyer flask. So this will have to work instead. All right. So what we're going to do is a little experiment now. Now, we're going to take something called, do you know what this is called? Do you know what it's called?
A cup with ice.
Dihydrogen monoxide. Dihydrogen monoxide.
Okay.
In its solid state. So what are the three states of matter? Solid.
Liquid and gas.
So what would happen if I turn this into a liquid? What would it become? Instead of ice, it would be?
Water.
And if I boil it, it would be? Gas. And what would what's the water gas called?
Water, gas.
Begins with an S? Steam.
Steam.
Right. Okay, but we have our solid dihydrogen monoxide, and we have our vortex mixer. We can pour some of that into this vortex mixer. There we go.
Whoa.
Pour some of that into there. That's okay, we'll get that later. All right, that's enough of that. Now, we'll leave that for now. We'll get it later.
Okay.
And now we need to get our reactants. So when we do a chemistry experiment, the things that we mix together are called reactants.
Okay.
And if we're doing cooking, we call them ingredients. But instead, in chemistry, they're called reactants. First, we need a little bit of ethanol.
Ethanol.
We don't have any ethanol, but we have this. So this will have to serve.
Basically wine.
It's vodka. Okay?
Okay.
So take your your graduated cylinder and pour in a little bit of the ethanol.
Okay.
Just a little bit, not too much. Well, you can be as generous as you want, really. I won't hold it against you. That looks about right. All right. That's good. Now our other reactant is going to be acetic acid. Acetic acid is also known as vinegar. Well, we don't have any regular vinegar, but we do have these olives that are pickled in vinegar. So you can use your pipette to put some vinegar in with the ethanol. A little more.
Smells like vinegar.
It is vinegar. Yeah, let's make it a little dirtier. I mean, a little more.
Dirtier.
I mean, you know what I mean. All right. One more time.
I feel the olives.
That ought to do it. Great. Now, let's mix our two. Now, there is one more reactant, but we're not going to use it.
We should use it.
This I like it dry though. So this is, if we have this in there, then it's going to make it too sweet. So we merely introduce Signor Martini to Comrade Alimov. They nod to each other, but they keep a safe social distancing protocol.
Okay.
And they say goodbye. So now it's time to mix these together. Pour this into our vortex mixer.
This?
The whole, no, the other way around.
Other way around?
Pour your graduated cylinder into your vortex mixer. And now is the important part.
Time to mix.
Time to mix.
Which means shake.
Shake it, baby. Shake it, baby. Shake it, baby.
Okay.
Meanwhile, we have unicorn poop, which has nothing to do with the experiment, but it's just fun to have around. Okay. All right. Well done. Now. Whoa. It's a fumble.
Whoa.
Time to see if our experiment is a success. Take the vortex mixer and insert it into the Erlenmeyer flask.
This is gonna take forever.
Well, we have time. Okay. That's good.
It's not all came out.
That's all right. Take your time. We got plenty of time. All right.
Okay, we'll just leave it.
And there's a practical chemistry experiment. Now see, you've learned something about chemistry, and yet you still have a life skill which you can use in the
I do not know
future.
what this has to do with any of what we have done.
Well, let's find out. Nicely done. Experiment is a success. So the second part of the experiment is actually observational. Demetra will be taking notes as to my cognitive decline and loss of fine motor skills as the day progresses. So that's the second part of the experiment. We'll publish those results in the leading scientific journal when the time comes. Smell it. Stick your finger in it. Taste it. Okay, that's how we fight the coronavirus. Signing out.